Good morning. Welcome to Wake and Bake with Old School and Co. Hey, got the coffee going, brother, right
Yes,
on?
sir.
Some
Yes,
garage
sir.
coffee in there, right?
Absolutely. That's what it is, coffee.
Coffee. I dig it. Okay, we're going to have a great show today. I'm sitting here with my friend Jeb Green from ORCA, Oklahoma's for Responsible Cannabis Action. Now, we're going to cover a lot of subjects. He did a little short interview the other day for a TV station. Just real short. We're going to cover some major things today. Now, ORCA is a sponsor for the show. We've also got Hyperbarics for Heroes, another sponsor for the show. If you want to be a sponsor for Old School and Co., Wake and Bake for Old School and Co., go to www.patreon.com/Old School and Co. That way you can see the different levels of sponsorships for my show. All right, brother, what do we got going on? Who is ORCA?
So, ORCA, as much as anything else, is an idea. It's an idea that we, the people, empower our government, and we have certain expectations of what they can do, but sometimes it's still incumbent upon us as a people to step in and provide and assist when we see that it's needed. So that's really what we're trying to do. Is ORCA is a nonprofit organization. It's a super PAC per se.
Right.
And so our number one goal is education and providing just straight up and down information to the general public as it relates to cannabis and the community and to all of the things that happen around us.
Right, and that's what we work on is education. We try to educate the people that don't know anything or know very little about cannabis in Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, be it cannabis, be it the laws that affect us, and we're an advocacy group. You know, so there are times where we'll step up and we're going to advocate positions that are ultimately kind of for the general good, germane to all per se, not really trying to skew things. You know, it's just education and allow folks to make those decisions and to facilitate those decisions being made.
One of the things we found out about legalization is once we did legalize in Oklahoma, they keep trying to change the laws for us and stuff. And if they listen to the people, because the people really are the ones that need the medicine stuff, if they listen to us, that's when we can really get going with this program.
Right. You know, we're it's not the lawmakers, it's the outlaws.
There you go.
That know about cannabis.
That's
you know, and there's an industry that has grown, so there are a lot of things kind of on the business side, but when you talk, you know, about the knowledge of the effects, the knowledge of, you know, cultivation, and you know, the creation of a lot of the processes that have occurred, you know, it's all coming out of folks that, you know, until
Have
it
been
was
doing, have
allowed. Yeah,
there you go.
That's where the experience base is, and now we're not outlaws anymore.
I'm always amazed whenever I talk to our growers and processors and stuff with the science they know about the plant. It just amazes me because I've learned about it.
It really is amazing, you know. I mean, myself, I grow outdoor. You know, I believe that plants grow in nature, and they do, and they will perform to a certain degree that way. Now, where my respect really comes are for the indoor guys, the space station operators, because it's actually, for me personally, it's a lot tougher to create a controlled environment than it is just to adapt to the weather that I've grown up in and known for, better part of 47 years now. So it really is interesting. It's really interesting to see what in any other industry would be considered scientific advances. But I mean, there's a lot of really smart people that are, you know, doing some amazing things with indoor grows, with processing new products, and always pushing the frontier.
The hydroponics, you know, there's all kinds of different stuff.
And I mean, I've done some hydroponics. I've really done more aquaponics, you know, with fish.
Okay, there you go, yeah.
You know, as well, and of course there's the aeroponics where we're just kind of spraying stuff. And you know, one thing I saw recently is some folks have figured out how to genetically modify bacteria to produce THC.
Really?
Yeah, so that's a thing that's coming on, you know, down the road.
Wow, well, there you never know.
Yeah, it's a new frontier. So
if we can just open up to where we can do research on cannabis, that will make a huge difference.
Right. Well, at the end of the day, cannabis is here. Cannabis is going to be here.
It's going to be here.
So let's get it on.
Yeah, let's get it on. And that's what I saw. Now, fact checkers go with this. I saw a quote in a newspaper in Oklahoma that they predict cannabis is going to be a $12 billion a year industry, and that was with a B, not an M. I was amazed.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, it definitely is way beyond that nationwide.
Oh, nationwide,
you know,
yeah.
and what we're seeing here in Oklahoma is what cannabis is as an industry is what we the people set our state up for. It's not just about what we see over on the marijuana or the THC
Right.
side, but when you talk about one of our favorite topics, industrial hemp, and what can be done with that, our state could make some real moves. And way above and beyond just marijuana, we're talking about setting up for industrial production and export. That man, we could do some real good around here.
And it goes back to that old bumper sticker. Please give us another oil boom. We won't mess it up. Oklahoma, we're trying to give you a green oil boom.
This
if
is
you
it.
Just listen to us.
This is it. It is a once in a lifetime situation.
That's it
for anyone alive now, and that's what it is. It is that oil boom. So we're either gonna make the most of it or we're not.
Yeah, because the tax money that the state is going to start receiving off this, and this is a replenishable product too. You can over and over and over again, and you can different strains that just the genetics on it just amaze me.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing is that it's not just even all about the tax money.
Right.
It's about the jobs.
Oh,
look at where we're at there. I mean, we've got rough numbers that are, we're 50, 60,000, jobs deep, and the number could potentially be higher. Here's an interesting comparable. Last time I saw numbers on the oil industry was they had about 30,000 jobs at this point in time.
Yep.
Now, they'll ebb and flow. They can peak out around 70, 80,000. But when you're talking about where we're at, I mean, overnight, how else can you describe 50,000 jobs appearing overnight anything other than a boom?
Right. But the jobs in the oil fields, I've been a roughneck. There's, like you say, ebb and flow, ebb and flow. I'll tell you what, on that right there, we're going to take a short break. You've been sitting here watching Wake and Bake with Old School and Co. I'm sitting here talking to my friend Jeb Green from Orca, Oklahomans for Responsible Cannabis Action. We'll see you back here in just a second. Toke up and tune in, because I'm going to. Welcome back to Wake and Bake with Old School and Co. I hope you toked up and tuned in, because you know how I am on the breaks. I'm sitting here talking to my good friend Jeb Green from Orca, and we're going to give a short shout out to our new sponsors. We've always got greengrowfest.com. Go check them out on the web, and we've also got my running buddy DC Live and everything Mary Jane. Hey, we got all kinds of places to go to. DC, rock it on, brother. Okay, this segment right here, we've been talking about Orca and cannabis in Oklahoma. Now, we've covered a lot of subjects. Now, I like veterans. Getting veterans. Now, everybody knows I'm a drug addict. I was a legal drug addict for 12 years, and I got off the drugs I was on with cannabis. There's
Yeah.
lots of people out there just like me.
Yeah, and in the first segment, we just kind of talked about the benefits of cannabis to our state as a whole, state economy, and all that type of stuff. But fundamentally, it all starts with the people.
It all starts with the people and the
Everything starts
patients.
with the people, and so the individual patients, and you know, one of the best ways I've heard something put recently is we've got folks have always said, well, marijuana's a gateway drug, and we've always said, well, part of that is that if you make it illegal, then the only folks that are going to have it are going to be the stuff that got a lot of the harder stuff, and
There
it
you go.
exposes people that way. It's not that someone smokes marijuana and says, "Hey, I need crack next."
Yeah, there
It
you
doesn't
go.
work that way, So, but what I've heard recently said, and this is an awesome perspective, is that in a sense, cannabis is a gateway drug. It's a gateway to recovery.
Right on.
A lot of folks, have had an experience, be it, getting off of the pills, getting off of the alcohol, where cannabis has been what has enabled them to do that. And these are not isolated stories.
Oh,
These
no,
are,
no,
I
no.
mean, we're talking thousands and thousands of people now are, having that benefit. So, I mean, to that degree, it's a gateway to recovery.
And that's, to me, see, I was at the point where people, my family and friends were wanting to do an intervention on me. And, I was a drug addict, I went with it, but I got to the point where I was sick of being sick. I was tired of going to the doctors every month. I was tired of going to the pharmacy. It was always, just a drudgery. Now, when I go to a dispensary, it's great. I love walking in there.
Right. Yeah, I know that. Sick and tired of being sick and tired.
That's it, brother.
And now that we've got the option where instead of, like you said, that drudgery, that kind of that culture, that has been put upon us by big pharma and others, the real drug dealers out there.
That's it. Yeah.
Now that we're kind of getting things right, it's like, hey, I'm gonna go to the local dispensary, talk to some of my people, be a good time, and get to see what new products are out on the market, and kind of what's working, and go from there. It's just it's such a more positive experience.
And whenever I was doing drugs, you got the drive. The drug tells you need to do it. But now I go to a dispensary and I sit there and look, at the different stuff I want. It's not going to a pharmacy. I've got to have this right now. It's, oh wow, I'm low on weed. I need to go check this out. And I go in there and I see all these products I can use. Now that comes down to the different maladies I've had. Whenever I was doing the hydrocodone and the Xanax and all that other stuff, that was a shotgun effect on my body. It was shutting off parts of my brain where I basically couldn't feel anything. Now I do cannabis and I'm alert. I'm fairly alert. I can feel my body. I'm in a little bit of pain. Cannabis isn't a painkiller, it's a pain distractor. But we've also got topicals and stuff that are painkillers. We can do a lot with cannabis if people just listen.
Absolutely, and I mean it's for me, I smoke a lot of weed.
Right on.
Over time, I've smoked a lot of weed, but what I've found, and now that everything's out in the open, and it's easier. What I've been able to do here, over the course of this program is really just get settled in on, okay, edibles. I mean, I can make some killer fudge. I mean, I can make some real good, home stuff. But what really benefits me is THC, and not necessarily Delta 9, but THCA that hasn't been decarbed.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So what I'm able to do is combine that with herbs that also affect the endocannabinoid system,
Right.
and start hitting those receptors, kind of like different pressure points. And, I basically am well regulated and can just kind of go around and do my little old deal.
Yep.
I wouldn't, consider myself, really much intoxicated at any given point in time or impaired. I mean, I've been able to find that good zone for me where I'm able to, take advantage of that plant-based medicine across the whole, and boop, a couple of tablets in the morning, I'm on off about my day, and hey.
Right on.
Good
See,
stuff.
I've talked to Dr. Regina Nelson several times. I'm one of her trained Canadian certification coaches and stuff. And she's got the formula. She's written 5 books on cannabis.
Nice.
Really knowledgeable on it, and it really does help break things down about how to use it and everything.
Yeah, and that just goes to show there really is a ton of research out there. And I'll tell you, right after 788, we had a working group up at the Capitol, bicameral,
Right.
bipartisan deal, you know. And one of my absolute favorite quotes was when a fellow was on your show a week or two ago, Dr. Pasternak.
Oh, Dr. Lawrence Pasternak.
Yeah. Lawrence looked at him stone cold and said, you know, the research is there if you would just read.
That's it.
It was one of the most profound things I saw said, you know.
Dr.
So
Pasternak can throw out some really good stuff.
He
I love that.
He can. He's a smart guy.
Yeah. And we're sitting here talking to Jeb Green from Orca. Right now we're talking about veterans and getting off the drugs that we're on.
Mm-hmm.
Like I say, if we talk about PTSD, now if we're going to talk about veterans, the horrendous stuff that they see in battle and in training, you know, we see all kinds of stuff. That's why they give you a usual salad of stuff whenever you get out. You know, the hydrocodone, the Xanax, the Klonopin, and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. It is so much better, in my opinion, cannabis, because I get the quick relief and I can pick what I want to do. You know, I don't wake up sitting at a stop sign that I've been sitting there for 15 minutes or something like that. There's a huge difference in the medicine.
Yeah, there really is. There really is. It's just, to say it's a night and day difference is, you know, is just incredible.
And
you know?
there's a long group of veterans all across the country that are working to legalize cannabis.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. That's one thing that I've always seen around the movement for cannabis is that, I mean, veterans are out there leading the charge in a lot of different ways. You know, they're
always.
You're absolutely. It's what they do.
Okay, cool. On that right there, always forward, you're sitting here watching Wake and Bake with Old School and Co. Sitting here talking with Jeb Green from Orca. I hope you toke up and tune back in, because you know I'm going to.
Hempire Genetics is an advanced research program set forth under the 2018 Oklahoma Industrial Hemp Pilot Program, overseen by Northwestern Oklahoma State University. A lot of farmers reach out to us. They've heard about what we're doing and are interested and want to know what they've had growing on their land since they were kids. Oklahoma is very diverse in its weather system, and so these plants have adapted over the last several hundred years to withstand that. A lot of it was brought here by the U.S. Department of the Interior back as part of Hemp for Victory. Hemp for Victory was brought about with the loom of the coming World War. We knew that we were going to have to produce a very large amount of hemp to rig the ships for their sailing, for their ropes, for their anchors, also clothing, sailors' hats, our flags, everything was made from hemp. Marijuana wasn't made illegal until 1969. The USCSA classed marijuana in with other dangerous narcotics such as heroin, cocaine, and methamphetamines. The campaign to slander cannabis began back in the 20s, mainly with William Randolph Hearst and the paper mills. Then that transgressed into big oil. Later in the 30s and 40s, really gained steam. By late 1937, the Congress passed the Marijuana Tax Act, which grouped industrial hemp in with marijuana. After that, they gave the differentiated names, hemp, marijuana. While farmers were still allowed to grow, taxes were raised so heavily that it made it difficult, especially for lower income farmers. In 1940, when Hemp for Victory came to Oklahoma, they actually used Oklahoma as a test plot. Several genetics were shipped in from all around the world to see what would grow best on American soil, since Oklahoma has such a diverse climate. And it's very hard to find a lot of documentation on that. We know there was a lot of places, obviously, that were involved, or we wouldn't be finding cannabis in every county in Oklahoma. Hempire Genetics, sowing the seeds of the past to grow a better future for everyone. Visit us at HempireGenetics.com or on our social media pages at Hempire Genetics.
Welcome back to Wake and Bake with Old School and Co. You're sitting here talking with our good friend Jeb Green from Orca. We're going to give a shout out to OTU Media. Yay! That's who's producing our show. Right on. If you want to contact us about the show, if you want to be on the show, you can comment on this section right here, or comment just on this outlet, or you can send us a message or anything like that to be on the show or to be in the audience. If you would like to be a sponsor for the show, sponsorships start off at $50 a month and go up there the different levels. All right, we're also going to give a shout out to contact us. It's www.patreon.com/OldSchoolAndCo. Contact us about sponsorships. Right on. Mm-hmm. Jeb, what do we got going on now?
Well, so we went down and we filed the petitions this last week on Thursday that we'd all been kind of working on over the last few months. Right. And we went and filed those with the Secretary of State and also with the Attorney General to review the documents for various degrees of sufficiency, etc. And what folks really need to know right now about the process that we're in with the petition process. We've had a lot of folks say, hey, where can I sign and what's going on? What everyone needs to know is that right now, just stand down for a moment. Just hold on, because where we're at is that we are in a window now where over the next 10 days, effectually over the next 2 weeks, we've got to see if we catch any challenges to this language, which is highly possible. We're ready for that. And there's a potential that we could actually wind up pulling one of the versions that's filed and refile it, depending, right? Or we could, so that as it stands right now, the earliest that we could be in the field collecting signatures is basically Thanksgiving. So we're going to be doing a number of things. We actually are going to have a lot of work to get done immediately on voter registration.
Right.
That's a huge push that we're going to need to make. You have to be a registered voter to sign the petition.
Always, you bet.
So we'll run them side by side. We want to make sure that everyone's voice is heard. So
now this is a constitutional amendment.
Yes.
For medical. To put it in there where it's not going to be messed with anymore like the laws are now. This is also adult access, or we can call it recreational. It doesn't matter to me.
Right. So we have two petitions. One is to enshrine our patient rights in the Constitution. One thing that there's been a lot of concern about is, well, these are constitutional amendments. What does that mean? And so in the development of this, what we did was, first of all, our patient protections. We are intentionally locking those into the Constitution. Our patients in this community don't need to be at the Capitol every year under threat that those rights are eroded. Those are fundamental rights that we have, fundamental freedoms. We're locking that in. Now, the things that are done to actually streamline the program and create a new state agency, we did open it up, and it is a high bar for them, but it is doable that if the legislature needs to make some changes in there, we allow for that.
There you go.
You can really get into unintended consequences. This is a very quick moving, developing situation. So none of us can see 4 years down the road at this point in time. We want to make it, make it known what our intent is and spell it out directly. But we also, there's places where it's smart just to leave some wiggle room.
Now, if they want to contact you, they go to Orca, that's orca.ok.com, and contact you about the concerns that they have.
Yep, orcaok.com, yes.
You seem to be fairly political.
Yeah.
Keep your thumb on stuff, what's going on stuff. Now, we just saw, what was that, Senator Connie Johnson was the only Democrat running in the race for governor. And we just saw, what was it, Joy Hoffmeister changed from Republican to Democrat. So now Connie is opposed in the Democratic primary.
Yeah, and as far as the work that Orca does, we're not taking any public positions at this time on where we're at with candidates. Again, we're an advocacy and education organization, so what you could probably expect to see from us is kind of just make our community aware of where any random candidate on the ballot is, what their record is on cannabis.
That record,
we'll make that known, and everyone's record can speak for themselves. But to your point, I've done a lot of campaigns and elections in Oklahoma over the last 15 years. So, yeah, I definitely nerd out on that type of stuff. And, not as involved as I was because, my issue is my issue. I'm not a lobbyist that's lobbying for 5 different things. I'm here to represent cannabis.
Right, there you go.
Anyway, to your question, though, no, it really is interesting. Joy Hoffmeister is currently the state superintendent of public instruction. Basically, she's over common education. And she's came in as a Republican, been a registered Republican, and what we've seen here is we've seen her flip parties to run for governor, and there's been some big contention between her and the governor over a variety of things over the last couple of years. So, this is not surprising. What I think, and so when we look at this, we've got our current governor, Kevin Stitt, and then former Senator Irwin Yin is running against him. We all are fairly familiar with his record on cannabis.
Familiar with the Yin's record.
So there's that, and then a couple of folks popped out there as independent and whatnot. But it gets interesting over here on the Democratic side. So. What I see, my view of this is that I see that, this is a maneuver that was made, that you've probably got a lot of the establishment Democrats that are going to be, behind Hoffmeister, may or may not have, been active in trying to recruit her to do this. There's all that stuff that, they do. But what concerns me is that what we saw this last week is in that establishment rollout of Hoffmeister is I believe that they are highly underestimating Connie Johnson in a Democratic primary.
I think so too.
I spent plenty of time working with Democrats over a decade ago, and it's one thing those folks have always made a mistake of is assuming their base.
Yeah. And
so, Connie has got a really long record of, she's been one of the most vocal and out front supporters of cannabis in Oklahoma and has been a catalyst for cannabis issues over time. Right. So there is that. So the, overall, I don't think that Joy should be assuming anything. And anyone that is writing off Connie Johnson in this race, in that primary, they should. I'm sure that Joy will have a lot more money, but at the end of the day, it's people that do show up to vote. So it's going to be really, really interesting to watch. But anyone that's at this point counting, Connie out, is potentially making a big mistake.
In my opinion,
And then we also, one thing I failed to mention was I mentioned mentioned the Libertarian candidate, Natalie Bruno, I believe it is, and she's out there. She's obviously pro cannabis, and I mean she's a force in and of herself, and so that gets us into a 3-way deal in the general election. So I'd say this: it's a long way till election day, the primary or the general election. This is going to be interesting to kind of watch, what's going on.
And again, you say people underestimate Connie Johnson. They don't really realize the demographics that she reaches. She's much like cannabis because cannabis can reach any demographic. That's why I talk to so many people, in different jobs and stuff like that, because we do the canna families everywhere.
And at the end of the day, I think that this election cycle is going to be all about personal freedom.
Right on. All right, we're going to take an end on it right there. You're sitting here watching Wake and Bake with Old School and Co. Voted the #1 top cannabis advocate in Oklahoma at the Green Grove Fest. I hope you toke up and tune back in. Ping.